that's what you said, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, if you want to make it sound stupid, go ahead. That's what I said.
Can you explain though why you think that?
If women were happy in their marriages, then giving them the right to participate in society without marriage wouldn't have an impact on marriage. But it does, because they don't like it.
They don't like being married.
Because they're not being treated well in marriage, right?
Oh.
You have.
What about the incentives that they have to get
right
divorced?
Here, she's very happy in her marriage because her husband treats her nicely.
What about the incentives they have to get divorced, though? They have incentives to get divorced.
Yeah, but if you actually like your partner, you're not going to want to get divorced, right? I'm sure
if
Kendall
you have
also
incentives,
has an incentive. No, Kendall is not going to divorce her husband just for the money. She likes her husband.
Yeah, so what? Kendall's not every woman. When you talk about incentivizations, when you talk about incentivizations back the other direction, what you're saying is there's no possibility that there could be incentivizations the other direction, which could convince a woman to leave her husband. That's what you're saying.
If she doesn't like him, yeah, there are a lot of incentives. But if he's treating her perfectly well and she is perfectly healthy as an individual as well, then there should be no problem. She would have no reason to leave.
Agreed. So hang
Why
on.
would Kendall leave
Got
a
it.
perfectly
I understand
happy
what you're saying. I just want to grant it. I want to make sure I'm not straw manning you, so I'm going to steel man it back to you. If a woman's happy in her marriage, even if there's incentives, she's going to stay. Or the problem is either that she's actually miserable because of the way he's treating her, or there's something wrong with her.
Correct.
Then the logical extension of this would be then that you actually believe that women are initiating most marriages because there's nothing wrong with them, but because it's men's fault.
No, I think a lot of women get married too soon.
So it's their fault?
I don't think women get married soon enough.
It's both?
Yeah.
Then why, if it's both, then how come men aren't initiating those divorces as much as women?
They do as well.
They don't.
They do sometimes.
Sometimes, but why aren't they as much as
for the record? Wait, pause. Okay,
it makes sense for them not to want to.
Wait 1 second. Well, please wait 1 second.
Because they actually do.
Women really love to romanticize love. On the flip side, men are very logical thinkers and they're okay with going with the problems. When there's a problem after problem, most times women are like, I'm out, I'm done. It's because of this. We want to get married because we want the big wedding. We want this idea of love instead of actually knowing what love is. So I think to go along, someone had said that people are getting married too young. I think someone said that. I think you said that, Lindsay.
I did not. I said that.
Oh, you said that. Are getting married too young. I think I have a lot of friends that are married, and in my opinion, I think they are too young. But I think that because I see all these people that get married young and then they get divorced, but it's because they haven't found themselves. So I think if we taught our children to learn how to be how to be themselves and how to actually find who they are inside, we could promote us actually getting married early.
Well, then I wonder if that's true, if you can respond to this, if you think it's due to youth. Why is it that from the Christian frame, if a person and two people marry as virgins when they're young and they're Christians, their likelihood to divorce drastically decreases? I mean drastically.
Well, in my opinion, I believe it's because of this hookup culture in general. When you are virgins to begin with, you don't know really what you're missing out on, is what I view it as. So once you have had sex before, outside of it, then you're gonna want to continuously have it.
I want to speak to this because I was a virgin on my wedding night. I'm going to speak to this, and I got married young. I don't think me not experiencing other men is the thing. I feel like I was able to connect with my husband on such an intense level because we weren't physical with each other and we got to know each other, you know, emotionally, deeply. That's what you two were talking about earlier. But I also think I wish that people got married younger, not necessarily sooner. Like, you're not dating for 2 weeks and you get engaged, but I wish people would get married younger because you grow together. Whereas opposed to these people that are getting older or getting married older, you have all these separate
30.
finances. And like,
you're not able to build.
I have friends who the wife pays the husband the mortgage every month. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. That is crazy.
And so what the data shows is that yes, if you are virgins, and yes, if you get married young and you're Christian, yes, your divorce rate's
but that's
drastically.
Because they're Christians.
Yes, it is. But I thought that your primary thing that you wanted was to reduce divorce.
I do, but not because they believe that God thinks divorce is bad, but because they're actually happy in their marriages.
They report their wait, no. This contradicts what you just said. You just said that women are leaving their marriages because they're not happy inside of their marriage. I literally made sure to steel man it so that you would agree to it.
But you're saying it wrong. I said women are not getting married because they don't want to be with somebody.
No. Here was the steel man. I'll give it back to you. The steel man. Here's exactly what happened, and you can replay this if you don't believe me. I said, so you're saying women are initiating these divorces because the men are mistreating them, or in some way there's something wrong with the men. And you said yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case, then that would still be the case, even with these Christians. So are these young men just way higher quality men?
Because Christians, especially more devout Christians, don't believe in divorce. But it's a very controversial thing, especially in your own community.
But they can still get divorced.
But it's not socially acceptable. Like, you can say that, but it's not.
I don't think it has anything to do with that. Because my husband and I are not staying. My husband and I are not getting divorced.
You don't come from a Christian community. Don't be full of shit.
I come from a Jewish community.
That's not a Christian community.
But I would love to hear your comment.
It's not similar.
Everybody's extremely Orthodox. They get married very early. They stay married for a very long time.
They don't give a shit about divorce. It's not a big deal in those communities. It's not a huge deal.
I love how you're talking like you know.
I love how you're talking like you do. I'm telling you, in these Christian communities, which you're speaking on, just so that you understand, they are reporting their happiness levels much higher. They have less antidepressant use. They go to therapy and therapists far less. They have far less of these societal issues that you see. Stop talking. Almost done. Until yes, there are documented.
No. There's less antidepressants prescriptions because there's less therapy because they don't believe in therapy.
Then why is it?
Hang on. My husband and I go to therapy. We are actively in therapy.
Then how come the unaliving rates aren't higher?
Hang on, let me finish. Because we believe in marriage. I am not going to divorce my husband because of the fact that because the Bible says don't get divorced. I mean, that's part of it, but I feel like I want to work on my marriage. And so I do go to therapy and we do work hard on it. And it's not because strictly the Bible tells us not to, but a lot of good things take work.
A lot of women, especially if you're in a very religious community where your social points or whatever is dependent on how well you're doing in life, a lot of women don't necessarily want to divorce even if they're in a bad marriage or they're unhappy because they don't want everybody else to say certain things or they don't want to take that step with their life. They're very
Wouldn't that lead to poorer outcomes?
It would lead to poorer outcomes.
Well, then where can you demonstrate the poorer outcomes? Because all of them are reporting that the outcomes are better. Not only are they getting divorced less, hang on, their kids are far less prone to get into any type of criminal activity at all. Their kids are far more likely to be stable in life. They're far more likely to graduate from high school. They're far more likely to do all of these things. And on top of that,
it's because of religion.
And on top of that, well, you just got done saying it is. You just literally got done saying that's because there's all these incentives who keep them together.
And then you're saying that's all because of religion, when I said one thing was because of religion.
Yes, but no. I just asked you, wouldn't they have worse outcomes? And you said yes, but when we look at the outcomes, they're not worse.
Not just because they're religious.
But they don't report they're unhappy.
But that's because they're not doing anything that would, like, how are they going to report it, please? If they don't go to therapy.
A Pew researcher, exactly. A Pew researcher could call them and say, are you unhappy? And they would say yes.
That's not how it happens.
It is how it happens.
No, that's not how it happens.
How is data gathered?
You do studies. You take a sample.
And in the study, how do they gather the data?
You take a study.
How do they gather the data for the study?
But I'm saying in this study.
How do they gather the data for the study?
The population in question, sorry. the population in question here, they're literally not going to therapy. They don't
have to. Yeah, that's because they're stable.
They go to their priests. They do their whatever. Yeah. You're saying they're stable because that's what the stats show. But yeah. They're not actually saying, like, they don't have.
They do. They literally use polling data. They use polling data. So how do they do that? They just called them up and they're like, hey, are you happy? The same way that they do for secularists.
No, that's not.
But yes.
No,
they tell me how they do it.
They have therapists and they have antidepressants.
And for the religious, you have the priest and you have the infrastructure.
Okay, so are they going to the priests?
Yeah, sometimes they talk to people who are in the church, but just like with secularists, they'll also just call directly to the housewife.
They don't do that.
They do that. As part of a sample size, Pew will call people and literally ask them a series of questions to make a determination on their answers. How many people give similar answers to come up with data? Of course they do. Okay, then give me the alternative for how this is done.
You figure out the stats on how the doctors are prescribing antidepressants. You figure out how many people are starting to go to therapy compared to how many were years ago. You do all these different.
Yeah, but how would you determine individually who's unhappy and who isn't?
How would you determine individually?
By asking them. like they do.
Okay.
I will say,
I don't really understand where you're going.
My
with
point
this.
is that if we look at the outcomes, you speak out of both sides of your mouth. You say it's not because of Christianity, but it's because of Christianity. Then when we look at the outcomes, I say the outcomes in this group far better for everybody. You say, but that's not because of the religion.
It's almost like not everything's black and white, and there's nuance.
That's why I'm happy to get in the nuance.
Might be because of Christianity, and other things might not.
Well, which things do you think may not be?
Right. I think the fact that the stats show that they're happier, and the fact that they're getting divorced less, I think that is because their society, and a very, very Christian one. I'm not talking about a very secular society where there's some Christians.
Sure.
I'm talking about a devout Christian society where everybody is practicing very devoutly. Okay, in that sort of society, they're not.
Dude donated $199. Hey dog, you're 100% right on all. But criticism, you're talking to low IQ children focused only on emotion. At home/laughing will not teach them, even if their opinions are laughable. Just my 19,900 cents.
Thank you for those 19,900 cents. But
remember that this audience is also full of simps, and they don't like seeing women uncomfortable. But anyway, go ahead.
Whatever. This community is filled with people who believe in very similar values, and those values tend to be no divorcing, no therapy is bad, no antidepressants, these things are bad. And so all of the other stats that people would usually be able to base off in order to determine, is this community happy?
Hang on. Wait, are you saying that the Christian community says that it's bad to be on antidepressants and it's bad to go to therapy?
More devout Christian communities believe that, from my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think that's
absolutely
right.
Not.
That's absolutely wrong.
I will say that when you do accept Jesus into your life,
but are you guys
you're
actually right. Just so you know, yes, it is true that they often don't have to go to therapists because they have the infrastructure of therapy there. They have their priests, they have their community. They need it less. Okay, so and what ends up happening is, yes, you can make these determinations based on what these people are self-reporting, and you can look at their outcomes versus the rest of the population. That's how you would do the happiness index globally. You would look at the outcomes, who has the houses and who's living with food in their belly, blah blah blah. You would add all that to a happiness index. Why wouldn't you add that same type of thing when it came to outcomes for individuals? Of course you would.
For individuals, I just when you're talking about individuals, it's like a little bit hard. When you're talking about a community, that's different, right? If you're talking about a Christian community versus like a regular secular community.
Yeah, but it's made up of individuals.
Yeah.
So we're just looking for averages.
Well, when you're talking about one individual, you can't.
I'm not talking about one individual. Exactly, we're talking about an entire. We are talking about the community. That's the point. Right. But the point is, within this community, these individuals seem very much more well-adjusted than other individuals.
Some of that, I think, is because, first of all, Christianity, but other things is
because
also
of Christianity.
No, but I'm saying because Christianity denounces certain ideas like divorce and therapy and whatever. But also, I do think that because Christianity promotes the nuclear family, which I actually do think is a great thing, that also helps a lot.
It's too bad that feminism doesn't.
I don't necessarily think that's true. I think feminism just promotes that men and women are equal.
Would you like me to read the quotes of the famous feminists who say that the nuclear family needs to be destroyed and eradicated?
Taken it too far, and I would disagree with them. But just because I'm a feminist doesn't mean I have to agree with every feminist take.
Yeah, but in order to achieve egalitarianism, you'd have to remove the nuclear family because the nuclear family requires patriarchy.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so the nuclear family does not require a mom who stays at home and a father who works.
Even if it does, that's not patriarchy.
Well, then what is it?
They can still treat each other with respect.
Respect has nothing to do with patriarchy. If you were in charge of a family,
what do you consider patriarchy to be?
All it means is home of the father. It just means a society run by men.
Yeah, patriarchy means a society run by men. It doesn't mean your house can't be a man can't be head of a household. Yeah, he can.
Then it would be a patriarchal household.
No, it wouldn't.
Then who runs it?
The man can be.
How can a man be a head of a household but not run it?
Because he's making all the money, but that doesn't mean he has to not take any word from his wife and just do whatever.
I'm pretty sure you're supposed to just lead the family closer to God.
Wait. I'm so confused. Is he in charge of the household?
No, they're both in charge.
Oh, they're both in charge. Okay, so then
but he has more say over certain things, and she has more say over certain things, right? They're both in charge. She has more say, for example, over the children. What should the children do? Should the children do this?
So you think that if you think that the nuclear family, he has more say over
the money because he's making the money.
If you think that the nuclear family is the backbone of society, okay, do you think that?
I would say having two parents' presence is the backbone of society. I wouldn't necessarily say one has to stay home. I would think that it's better.
Well, it's optimal, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I mean, if you're going off of what's optimal, if we look at the society in which the nuclear family was most present, definitely the men were in charge of those households.
I don't think it has to be that way.
Okay, maybe not, but they definitely were.
Okay, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay, but even if not, can you acknowledge that they were?
Yeah,
and
sure.
that worked great.
That was how history was.
And that worked fine.
I disagree. That didn't work fine.
So then you don't really believe that the nuclear family, you just want, what you want is some kind of bizarre equality family.
No, I agree I believe in a nuclear family. However, it only works if the parents who are leading the family are
you
both...
mean the father?
No, the parents.
No, the father.
Whatever. Are both well-adjusted individuals who are emotionally mature and respect each other equally. If that's not happening, then your nuclear household is going to be a toxic household where both the parents are just fighting all the time. And
you keep on conflating this idea of leadership and respect. This is very strange. So when you say respect each other equally, right? What do you mean by that?
I mean, respect should be going both ways.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm not sure what you mean by equally.
Like how you expect her to respect you, you should be respecting her.
Like, for instance, let me give you just a quick, easy example.
Okay.
Say a man gets home from working and he walks in and his wife is leaned over a stove and he gives her a nice open palm smack to the ass, right? And she goes, "Don't do that." And he goes, "Hey, shut up." Then he goes and he sits down and he drinks his beer and blah, 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 right? Next day she comes in, she does the same thing to him, right? And he goes, "Don't ever do that again," right? Is that the kind of equality you're talking about?
I think in your scenario, if the husband properly respected his wife, if she said, "Don't do that again," he'd say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you," and then she wouldn't do that.
Okay,
right?
so then if they have a financial dispute and he says, "I want the money to go here," and she says, "No, I want it to go here,"
he's making the money, so I think he should probably have the say. If they have a child dispute, "I want my child to go to this school, you want your child to go to this school," I think
got it. So she takes over the children and where they go to school, and he makes the financial decisions.
Yeah, I mean, they could probably make those decisions together.
So
to be
she
honest,
gets an
both of
inheritance
them.
from her mother of $100,000. Does he get to decide where that goes?
No, that's her money.
No, that's her money, right? Well,
He's making the money. That's why he has to say. She's raising the kids. That's why she has to say.
That's her money. Why isn't it his money?
Why isn't the one money that he's making her money?
It is. He's literally taking care of the entire family with it.
Okay, then why shouldn't she get a say over it?
What do you mean? Because first of all, he can go to his wife, and you can say to your wife, you know, or she can come to you with these various issues.
If you're with somebody and you're talking to somebody and you genuinely respect them, if they get $100,000 from their parent, you're not going to want that money. And if they respect you, they're going to want to share it with you regardless.
What if you do want the money?
I mean, if you want the money more than you care about them as a person, then you just need to work on yourself.
Well, I don't understand. If you want to keep the money more than you care about your spouse as a person.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Respect needs to go both ways.
Well,
they shouldn't expect to get the money, and the other person should share it. But nobody's saying that the respect doesn't go both ways. But what we're trying to get to is if there's a dispute in the household, there's only two people. One has to make the ultimate decision. Yes, but if two people are working as a team, it's not necessarily so spiteful, right? There doesn't have to be.
I'm not saying it's spiteful nor adversarial. I'm saying someone has to make the ultimate decision. Which one?
Why can't they make it together?
Because they fundamentally disagree on something.
Okay, so give me an example of what they fundamentally
here's a great example. So husband says, "I want the kid to go to a Christian school. It's 20 minutes further." Okay, and she says, "You know, in the morning, I don't want to drive the extra 20 minutes." And he says, "You know what? It's super important to me that he goes to a Christian school. It's part of the faith of the family. I need you to do this." And she says, "No, I don't want to do it. It's too much work." Something like this. Right? Who's the tiebreaker?
I mean, that's like unreasonable. Obviously, she's going to take the kid to school, right? Like if she's putting up a fight because she doesn't want to take the kid to school because it's just too far, like that's a little bit ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Okay, now he says I want to take our investment savings and start a business, and it's risky. It's mitigated risk, but I still want to start the business anyway so I can follow my dreams. Does he get to do that?
Yes.
I definitely think they should make that decision together because if he fails...
But they can't agree.
Yeah, well, if he fails and he does it anyways...
Yeah, I know, but they can't agree.
Okay, so if they don't agree, he obviously can do it anyways, but if he fails, you understand she's going to hold it against him.
I understand he can, but what I'm asking about is should. So what I'm saying is if a person, if they cannot agree, they can't agree in this context, they're fighting about it, they're worrying about it, they can't figure it out, somebody has to be the decision maker. In that case, do you defer to him?
It depends on the context, is what I keep telling you.
I just gave you the context.
Right, so in that context, yes, you defer to him. If he fails, it's on him. You can blame him for it.
But it does affect you, right?
Of course it's going to affect you.
Okay, so I don't understand where the equality is then.
What do you mean? We literally.
Well, if it's always just a deference to the man, where's the equality?
Different examples in which
I'm trying to test the logic.
It depends. It's a nuanced thing, right? A lot of these are nuanced. You have a very basic and collective take on everything. It's like all men are this and all women are this, and this is how everything should be. I'm not giving a collective take. When the real world is very gray, it's nuanced, it's mixed with black and white. It's not a very like this situation should be.
So then how come when I give you nuanced takes, by giving you nuanced hypotheticals, you complain?
I didn't. I just gave you answers to all of them.
So then back to this.
I'm so happy this was recorded. Every single one of them I gave an answer to.
Yes, well, this is true, but this comes to our ultimate question then. I can't figure out then what you mean by equal.
Equal means they work together. They respect each other.
Yeah, but if ultimately it just comes down to the man makes the ultimate decision.
That's not ultimately what it comes down to.
Then how come every example I give you it does?
Because that's not what happened, right?
It is what happened, right?
It's not what happened.
Can you give me the scenario where you said the woman makes the choice in any of the hypotheticals I gave you?
Hypothetical where you slapped her on the ass and she said she didn't like it. There you go.
You didn't say defer to her either.
I said you should listen. She didn't like it.
You said you should listen, but not the deference. What I'm asking is who makes the ultimate decision? Is it the man? Stop. Is it the man or is it the woman? Every example I give you seems to defer to the man.
Depends on the context.
Yeah. Well, then give me the context where the woman should. What should my child
wear to school today? Should we put him in the red shirt or the blue shirt? Oh, I don't know. The wife will make that decision. What should we eat for dinner today? Yeah. Should it be pizza or should it be lasagna or should it be, I don't know. My wife will make that decision. Should the house be done in this way or should whatever? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Let us assume for a moment that he tells her, no, we're not having lasagna tonight. Should he be deferred to?
Deplorable Dude donated $199. Not a simp, but prefer progress over the unintelligible cackling status quo. Anyway, panel question. If a family loses their home, does that look worse on the man or woman? Maybe reason for hierarchy?
It's worse on the man.
If the family loses,
interesting.
He's asking like if it goes into
a family loses their home, does that look
foreclosure?
Loses their home?
I guess he's saying like if a man loses their home, is it the man's fault?
He's trying to establish that the man is the head of the household because if they lose their home, people are going to say that's the man's fault. They're not going to say, oh, the wife failed the family. They're going to say the man failed.
Very nuanced and situational.
If she's drunk on a Tuesday and she lights the house on fire, probably her fault.
Yeah, definitely her fault.
Absolutely. We can all agree there.
We were having, to the viewers, apparently this was YouTube-wide. There was some weird viewership glitch. Our viewer count was up at like 10,000, almost 10,000, and then it dropped to like 200. It happened a little earlier on in the stream. Now it looks like it's recovering. There was also some weird chat issue going on where people couldn't send messages in the chat. I was freaking out. My YouTube channel wasn't loading. I was like, oh fuck, did we get banned during the live stream? I think everything is okay now, but it did dip, went back up and dipped again. I'm hoping it's fully fixed now. Unfortunately, I think we lost a lot of organic viewers in the process, so I think it's all fixed.
Anyway, I just want to finish this exchange real quick.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out, in context, when the man inside of the nuclear family has a fundamental disagreement, when you think he should defer to the woman, and if he doesn't defer to the woman, right, is it worth breaking up the household over the fact that he won't defer?
So you're asking me what exactly scenarios he should defer to the woman?
No, I'm asking you inside of the scenarios where whatever they are that you believe he should.
Okay.
Because you're like, they gotta be equal, right? It's the lasagna is her responsibility. He needs to shut his mouth, right?
Yes.
On that lasagna, but he doesn't want lasagna. He doesn't want lasagna. He's more of a spaghetti and meatballs. Hang on. He's more of a spaghetti and meatballs guy. He's like, no.
Okay, she wants the lasagna.
No.
But she wants.
Yeah, I know, but he says no.
And she's cooking the lasagna.
Yeah, I know, but
she's not cooking both.
But he walks in. He walks in. And he says, "Well, then fine. No grocery money for the fucking lasagna."
Okay, what are we doing? Are we trying to hold things
all I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out ultimately, right?
A relationship doesn't work when you're trying to be like, you do this and you do this and I'll do this. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not disputing this.
It shouldn't be.
But what I am saying is
all the way.
if you come down to a tiebreaker, you have to have somebody who is the decision maker.
It depends. If it's the woman cooking the meal, and she wants lasagna, she should be the one who's making the decision. If he's making the money and he decides he wants to go gamble his money away and risk it on a business and whatever, he's the one making the money.
I think the man has the ultimate say, personally.
So you think if she wants to make lasagna for dinner and he wants spaghetti, she should make spaghetti?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Did he work all day and she was at home?
But why shouldn't he or she make what he wants?
But also on a case-by-case basis, a good man is not going to come home and see that his wife has slaved away making lasagna and say, throw it away and make me spaghetti.
Absolutely.
A good, respectful man probably wouldn't do that.
That's not what we're saying, though. We're not saying that. What we're saying is ultimately, all I'm trying to get at is that inside of a relationship, you do, especially inside of a marriage, there are going to be problems that come up where there's going to be perhaps irreconcilable differences on decision making. Doesn't mean that a person can't consult you or you can't consult them or this type of thing, but somebody has to make the ultimate choice between the two of you.
Right.
Don't you think that should be the man if it's a nuclear family dynamic?
No, I think it still depends on the context.
Okay.
But like they said, ideally, if you're marrying a man anyways who's going to be respectful to you, then it doesn't matter, right? Like if you can treat him however he wants to be treated, and he'll give you the energy back because he loves you too, right? And then you'll get everything you need because you're being a good husband and wife, whatever, and she's being a good wife, right? But if he's being toxic and he still wants her to submit, then I have a problem.
Yeah, but that's a subjective metric for toxicity, right? So like the things that you would consider toxic would be basically anything that you just don't like. Right?
Not true. What do you think?
What would be toxic?
Controlling behavior would be toxic.
What do you think? What?
Controlling behavior would be toxic.
Yeah, but controlling how?
Behavior.
Like what's an example of controlling?
Like you tell your wife to make spaghetti when she wants to make lasagna.
Why would that be controlling? It's just a matter of your preference, right?
Yeah, but if she always makes dinner, let's say every single day, right? And then she wants to make lasagna one day because she's really craving lasagna, and you're like, no, you're going to make dinner. It's like, what is she? So where
do we delineate between preference and control in this sense, right? If your husband doesn't want you to go fuck another guy, is he being controlling?
No, that makes sense.
That would be an enforcement of preference, right?
Yes.
So where do we draw that line?
It depends on whether you're being...
It's subjective, right?
No, not really.
I think God draws the line.
No,
show me where.
The line is based on where, like your behavior, right? If a woman is being very, very promiscuous out and about, and then a man, her husband, says, "Don't do that," that's fair. I don't think he's being insecure.
Can I give you an example?
But you're not telling me where that line is between where it becomes controlling and where it's no longer controlling.
The part where it's controlling is when you're telling her to do something that no longer impacts you as a person, but your
spaghetti impacts you.
That doesn't really impact you.
It does really impact you.
Well, hang on. Let me say this.
That's my whole point. It doesn't
really impact
But hang on, but it does. But this is a point. If we're going from the limited,
emotionally, like it
if
gives
we're
you some
going from
trauma
the
or
limited amount, well, that makes no sense though. That's because we're engaged in conversation. We got hours of this. Relax. We'll get over there.
Well, I know we're all about to leave though. Like none of us are feeling it.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Fine. We'll move it on.
Sorry.
Please and thank you. You guys just don't agree. Yeah, you got that, okay? And then it is what it is at that point.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be changing many of their opinions, so we can just say our opinions.
It's not for you guys to change your guys' opinions.